Hello, my friends. Welcome to PMP exam micro process quiz number 5. It's in a series that we've been reviewing over the past number of weeks. So let's jump straight into it and let the questions come. Here's your first question. For the past year, research for a highly competitive product has been underway and successfully concluded. Now, upon issuance of the Agile project charter, a company plans to deliver a new product that requires skills only present in a few team members at the level needed. On what should the project manager focus to initiate this project? Select two that apply. Okay, now let's take a look at the answer. So, part of this question has a clue. It says, a company plans to deliver a new product. So this kind of alludes to something new that requires skills only present in a few team members at the level needed. So it suggests that we need to get the team up to this level. The way you can do that without being presumptuous is not coding and programming, because no one said anything about this being a programming, IT, software, even hardware project. So we're going to cancel that suggests coding, programming, and testing training. The next one, it says competitor analysis, D. We will cancel that because it said, for the past year, research has been underway and successfully concluded. That competitor analysis should be part of the research. So the best options here are pairing and paint drip profile. Okay, now what is pairing and what is paint drip profile? Let's read in the Agile practice guide real quick. So if you open up to page 153 in the Agile practice guide, pairing or pair work is a technique of pairing two team members to work simultaneously on the same work item. And as they work together, the less developed team member will learn from the more developed team member. And then we also have the paint drip profile. And if you take a look at page 153 again, you're asked to refer to broken comb, which is the same concept. Broken comb also means the same as T-shaped scales. It is when a team member is looked at as being a T-shaped person that has a broad set of skills, just like the letter T, broad set of skills, but also narrowed down specialisms. And that's why it's called a broken comb or paint drip or T-shape. And that's the idea. All right, let's move on to the next one. Without a project manager's knowledge, an unofficial communications platform on social media was established to ensure effective communication among team members. The project manager learns that the platform is being used inappropriately. What should the project manager do to avoid this in the future? I'll let you take some time to think about it. This is choose an option. All right, my friends, let's use process of elimination. So this question is asking, what should the project manager do to avoid this in the future? Not what should the project manager have done, but what should the project manager do? And these are very different. What the project manager should have done could be in the past and therefore not relevant for the future. Okay, so let's take a look. A, effectively communicate with all individuals, thus negating the need for such a system. That means there's no communications going around among team members. No, communication does not just center on the PM to the team. The team amongst themselves will communicate, so that cannot be right. Let's take a look at option D. direct the project team to discontinue use of the platform, and report to the PMO. Now, doing that will stop them using the system, but it will not, in the long run, like if you say, stop using the system, how does that avoid recurrence of them finding another tool and using it inappropriately? And reporting to the PMO does not help in that regard. Let's move to option C, terminate the platform as it is not part of the communications management plan. Okay. Similar to D, but it does not help as far as avoiding it in the future. You could terminate the platform now, but what happens in the future? How do we guide good behaviors? It's option B. You got to develop a team charter with clear ground rules and details. And when you do that, that will most likely result in you not having this problem in the future. Everything else, it doesn't help. Stops them using the platform, but doesn't help develop the behaviors as option B would. All right, let's move on. A senior Scrum Master is guiding a new Scrum Master in servant leadership. What should the senior Scrum Master list as the key benefits of a retrospective? Select two options. All right, let's take a look at the answers. So, A, it is a chance for everyone to discuss and resolve impediments. The retrospective, although it could capture impediments, and although it could be used as a forum where that could be done intentionally, it is not what our major focus is, but it's not a bad one to choose. But let's see if there's something better. B, provides the team with a platform to self-inspect and adapt. I will definitely choose B, but let's read C. Allows the team effectively cope with the storming stage in all other future sprints. Now think about what it's saying. Storming stage in all other future sprints. This goes against the grain. It says cope. So we don't want to cope with storming. We want to go through storming. We don't want to stay in storming in all, what's that word? All other future sprints. That is not right. So for that reason, C has got to go. All right. So which two options would you choose from here? D says helps the team learn from its previous work on the product and its process. That is definitely what we do in retrospectives. And of course, the self-inspect and adapt goes in line with the Agile Manifesto. At regular intervals, the team tunes and adjusts. So a chance for everyone to discuss and resolve impediments. It's not an impediment resolution meeting. That is not what retrospective is known as, even though it is not totally off limits, but that is not the best way of describing a retrospective. The best ways here are B, because B would contain even A. It's more inclusive, right? And D is also more inclusive. So I would go with the more inclusive options. When you have one option that's rather narrow and you have broader options, you got to choose the broader options. Moreover, we resolve a lot of the impediments in the daily after the daily scrum in the after meeting. So keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to the next one. During project execution on a purely agile project, the project team determines that additional resources are required. The team selects Duncan, a junior programmer, with what you believe are poor communication skills. What should you, the project manager, do as it relates to hiring Duncan? Think about it. All right, let's take a look at the answer. So A, refer team members to the communications management plan. B, develop a communications plan with strict governance and adherence rules. C, coach Duncan to be able to work without the team. Okay, we have to shoot that one down immediately because what use is it hiring someone if they're not going to be able to work with the team? So that has to go. Let's look at D, allow the team hire the team member of choice. So going through all of them right off the bat, we can get rid of C. The communication management plan does not have to do with hiring. It says as it relates to hiring, and developing a communications plan with strict governance does not have anything to do with the hiring. This is talking about hiring. So if you went off chasing communications, then you have learned a lesson to stay focused on the question at hand. So the best answer is allow the team hire the team member of choice. This is what we do in the world of Agile. It says purely Agile project. So keep that in mind. Let's go to number 5. An important product milestone for the 5th sprint regarding an industry convention for the product to be showcased was not documented during product road mapping. A stakeholder notices the error during the 2nd sprint review. What should the product owner do? All right, hit the pause button for more time. So let's go through them. A, meet with a stakeholder to discuss the missed deadline and negotiate a new date. Now, that one right off the bat has some untruth in it. It said a missed deadline. There's a difference between a milestone that was not put into a product roadmap versus a missed deadline. This is not a missed deadline. So A has got to go. Same for B. Investigate the impact of the missed deadline. If you read it, it said it's a milestone, an important product milestone for the 5th sprint is picked up during the 2nd sprint review. You've not missed this. You still got time to fix it. So it cannot be investigating the impact of the missed deadline. C, modify the necessary documentation with this update. Doesn't sound bad. And D, call for an emergency steering committee meeting to discuss whether to include the missed milestone as part of the product features. It's not a missed milestone. Again, these are all red herrings, and the best answer is C. Modify the necessary documentation. In other words, the product roadmap. You get a lot of questions with vanilla flavored answers such as modify necessary documentation and things like that. So be ready to face those kind of questions. All right, let's continue along and let's read. A project manager is working with team members in a loose matrix arrangement on a project as a risk coping mechanism. The project is taking place in many cities throughout the country. During the final stage of execution, a team leader informs the project manager that in one city, effective immediately due to COVID concerns, authorities will not allow congregating of team members. What should the project manager do about this? All right, let's take a look at the answer. So, what exactly is the problem here? So, because of COVID, authorities will not allow congregating of team members. But is that really a problem? Let's address it. It says in a loose matrix. What is a loose matrix? A loose matrix is not a weak matrix. A loose matrix just means the people are not geographically co-located. They are dispersed, all right? It actually says this project is taking place in many cities throughout the country. So we have people working in different locations. So we have A, escalate to the sponsor. There's really nothing to escalate, right? It said this is from authorities. So that's not even a thing. B, report as an issue to key stakeholders and brainstorm. Well, is this really an issue? Congregating is not allowed. It's not a problem because it's a loose matrix. So there's really no issue here. D, arrange a co-located meeting with the team and share this news. Why do you need to do that? It says they don't allow congregating. So actually here, there's no problem. This is just a pretty simple common sense question. And all you needed to do was sift out the fact that a loose matrix means virtual anyway. So do nothing different and follow current procedure. It's that simple. Everything else is just a waste of time because there really is no problem. All right, let's move on. You are the Scrum Master on an Agile hardware manufacturing project. During the recent sprint review, a senior stakeholder complains that a feature essential to their department was not addressed. What should the Scrum Master do next? Let you think about it for a bit. All right, my friends, let's take a look. The answer to this, using process of elimination, is not to explain to the stakeholder that her requirement was low priority. You don't know that for sure. So even though a feature is not addressed in a recent sprint review, that does not mean that it's low priority. It could mean that it was prioritized based on certain criteria by the product owner, but it doesn't mean it was low priority. Okay. B, coach the stakeholder to understand that in Agile, only value work is delivered. All right, Miss Stakeholder, so your requirement is rubbish, so we're not going to deliver it. No, you wouldn't do that. All right, let's look at C, manage stakeholder expectations more proactively. To be quite honest, there's nothing wrong here. Okay, this is a sprint review where we are reviewing what has been built, and nothing suggests that this requirement will not, actually it says feature, nothing suggests that this entire feature will not be addressed some point down the road. Nothing suggests that. So what should the project manager, what should the Scrum Master in this case do next is not to be proactive. There's really nothing in terms of proactivity to do. What you should do at this point is defer to the product owner and let the product owner take it from there. The product owner can explain the logic and the rationale behind the prioritization of the backlog. We prioritize by value, by size, by other dependent factors, and many more. All right, so the best answer is D. It's one of those where you would defer to the accountable party. Product owner is accountable for the product backlog prioritization. Let's move on. Number 8, a project needs resource support from a supplier because several components to be worked upon are heavily specialized. Concerns arise about the restrictions involved when using a supplier for the project due to the restrictive nature of terms. Which option presents more flexibility for agile work? Choose 2. Go for it. All right, my friend. So just going by what we know about Agile, we do not use a whole lot of FFP. That is not flexible enough. So firm fixed price is known a lot in the traditional world, not the best for Agile. So we're going to cancel that. There's not a lot of flexibility there. Taking a look at D, high risk, low value option. That is a bogus one. In fact, this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to do high risk, low value. You want to do high risk, high value, high risk, low risk, high value. And you could do low risk, low value, but high risk, low value, you want to stay away from those. So the best answer here is dynamic scope option and early cancellation option. Refer to page 77 of the Agile Practice Guide, page 77 of the APG. That will help you better grasp this. Flexible contract types. All right, let's move on to number 9. During a project's initiating phase, the project manager reviews the lessons learned repository. The project manager learns that a previous project failed due to constant poor defined scope. This project cannot afford a loose scope arrangement. What should the project manager do to avoid project failure? I'll let you read it. All right, my friends. Hit the pause button for more time. Let's take a look at the answer. So the answer here is that the previous project failed due to constantly poor scope. To avoid this in the future, you don't want loose scope. The way you deal with this is not by managing stakeholder expectations. Stakeholder expectations need to be set anyway. So you're not going to do a very good job of that if you do not have other things in place. Same thing with managing stakeholder engagement. You could engage a stakeholder, but still fly past what is needed from their perspective as far as scope is concerned. C, define a cost baseline with contingencies is not the answer because that's talking purely about cost. This is a scope related problem that caused projects to fail. So the best thing to do is to develop a performance measurement baseline, a PMB. And in your performance measurement baseline, you have the scope baseline, the cost baseline, and the schedule baseline. Scope, cost, and schedule. And when you have baselines for those, you have a better definition of scope. But the thing that relates most to it is the PMB, because the PMB has all of those 3 baselines, and it's going to cover the scope in the sufficient level that it needs to. All right. So again, when you're faced with questions like this, say what gets to the root. Manage stakeholder expectations and manage stakeholder engagement. They don't get to the root. You need the root to be able to do those effectively. So the answer would be B, develop a performance baseline. In other words, a performance measurement baseline. All right, here's our final question, number 10. While at the sprint review, a stakeholder determines that a few cosmetic quality issues are inherent in the deliverable. The stakeholders decide to move ahead with the pending release and allow the team complete any modification later while in production. What does this scenario best describe? All right, let's take a look at the option. So A, it says COPQ, the cost of poor quality. Remember, we're talking about the entire scenario here, which is moving ahead with a release and completing any modification later. That does not describe COPQ. So you're going to cancel that. Storyboarding and road mapping. No. This has nothing to do with storyboarding. That is not a befitting name. And we have two more, technical debt and continuous testing and integration. Well, continuous testing and integration does not have to do with moving ahead with a pending release and allowing the team complete any modification later. The best answer is technical debt. Technical debt is when there are things that are not final, when they're not done the best way possible, and the system is working, whatever you built is working, but you have something that needs to be fixed. For example, code that is messy. Is the system working? Yes. Does anyone know what's happening under the hood? Yeah, but not the people who are using the system. To them, everything's fine on the surface until you go to the next level on the back end and you realize there's messy code, poor syntax, and things like that. So that is technical debt. And PMI have their definition of technical debt. It's not as robust as what I just described, but let's read it. Page 154 of the Agile Practice Guide. Page 154 of the Agile Practice Guide. All right. And it says, the deferred cost of work not done at an earlier point in the product lifecycle. So think about it. You got work done, but you know that that code's messy. It's a deferred cost because you're going to have to go back in and clean up in the future. So go to Agile Practice Guide, page 154, read the details there. And if you are getting ready for your exam, whether it is the PMP exam or some other exam, I would highly advise that you join us on one of our programs. We've got a number of options, and one of the options that we have is called the PMP exam immersion. And you can sign up for that at the website hpmexam.com. If you go to hpmexam.com, you can sign up for our next bootcamp. If you want to be part of a more extensive program, which covers everything from the beginning, I mean, even beginner level stuff, then you need to be on the project management masterclass, which is more robust. You see, some folks go for training, and the training they go for, to be honest, is not very helpful. It's not that great. So if that sounds like you, maybe you went for a course that was less than ideal and you need to come aboard a program that puts things straight for you, I would say go on down to Praizion.com and look at some of our solutions that we've got there. And that concludes our session for today. I hope you found value from that. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.